Welcome to The Culture. We rest at the pulse of the community, providing all things news, media, fashion, events, and everything that we talk about in between. Documenting our Black powerful history and amplifying our Black voices, one interview at a time. We are The Culture.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of The Culture. I'm your host, Jessica Garrett Modkins, and joining us today is Will Packer. He is an acclaimed Hollywood film and TV producer, and most recently, he added this title, New York Times best-selling author. Welcome to the show, Will Packer.
How you doing?
I am doing wonderful. We are so thankful that you're able to join us today for another edition of The Culture. This book, Will. This book. You've done something with this one.
Can I tell you, I am just as proud, if not more, of adding New York Times bestselling author to the resume as I am of any of my #1 movies, any of my big feature or television projects, because it's a different muscle and it's a different area. And I was able to break through and do something that is extremely difficult, especially today. And so I'm very, very proud of it. So thank you. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was a great read. I loved it. The title, the colors. I love colors, as you can tell. So it drew me right in immediately. But as it relates to the subtitle, Healthy Arrogance, take us to what drew you to add that to the title.
You know, I wrote the book because I have been in Hollywood almost 3 decades now, and it sounds crazy to say, but I've been in the game for a minute. And one of the things I've learned from the most successful people is this concept of healthy arrogance, this supreme confidence that says that not you could be successful, but that you're going to be successful and that you deserve success. We have to start shifting our mindset to one of thinking that we deserve success and we deserve the best things. And especially now, and I love the fact that this is called for the culture, because within the culture is under attack, people. The culture, people are saying the culture is not important. People are saying that folks like you and I, Jessica, are not valuable. They're questioning our very existence. You got to know that you deserve to have success. And that's a mindset and a way of thinking. And some of the most successful people in the world that I've had the opportunity to work with, they have this mindset of believing that any room they walk into, they belong in that room. Anybody they're around, they belong standing next to them because they have something to add, something of value that other people don't have. It's not about putting people down, not about saying who you're better than. That's toxic arrogance. But healthy arrogance is a supreme confidence that says, I deserve success and I am going to be successful. If it hasn't happened yet, if it hadn't happened today, it may not happen tomorrow or the next week, but it's going to happen. And when you believe that, it starts to manifest itself in a variety of ways.
I love it. I love it. Now, the book is just masterly written. It's filled with business advice, all woven through personal anecdotes. Now, was that something that was intentional, the storytelling?
Oh, no question. I mean, listen, I'm a storyteller, right? I am a storyteller. Obviously, working in Hollywood, I understand the power of telling a story. I wanted the book to be entertaining. I wanted it to be a light, easy read, but packed with lessons. And I've done that with several of my films. With Stomp the Yard, all I wanted to do was make a movie about Black college life and Black Greek letter organizations. Hollywood didn't want to greenlight that movie. So I wrapped it in the wrapping of a dance movie, but I have all these messages in Stomp the Yard when you go back and watch it about HBCUs and their importance, about Black Greek life, about succeeding. And I want to do the same thing with this book. But also, Jessica, I feel like storytelling has never been more important, right? To my earlier point, people are going to question your value. You have to be able to tell your story. I believe you're building your brand from the time you're born to the time you die. You are telling people how to value you. You're telling people how they should respond to you, how they should think about you, how they should value you. You're selling yourself, whether you want to be in sales or not. That's what you're doing. And part of being able to make sure that people understand your value is being able to articulate your story. So I'm a big proponent. You don't have to be a Hollywood producer to need to understand the value of storytelling and to work on those storytelling skills.
Now, with your first film that you produced while you were in college, you had the front row. I call it your dream row. Was that something that you can now think back to talk to the college Will, to yourself as you're in college? Was that something that you would give yourself some other advice now that you're who you are now?
I wouldn't. I
No.
wouldn't change a thing. And that dream row that you're talking about was empty. It was nobody came because
I didn't want to tell anyone. I want them to pick up the book. I don't want to tell all of it.
I'll give that's a little spoiler. I'll give that away. My first premiere, the front row was empty because I had invited all these important people. And I break down in the book how and why. But I definitely had an audacity that I felt like my project is important enough that these people should be coming. And what I learned was that actually the important people were not the front row people. The important people were everybody else that packed every other seat in that auditorium. And too many times we are doing things for the front row folks. We are chasing the validation of people who have titles, people who we perceive to have power, people who have resources. Understand, nothing wrong with partnering with people. We all need assistance and help as we chase our dreams. But do not underestimate the value of folks who actually are going to understand you and your mission and where you're coming from. Those were the people that I had filling that auditorium, not the front row people. So what would I tell myself? What would I tell young Will Packer? Keep going. That's it. That's all I would do is say, keep going, because I wouldn't change my approach or my methods. The one thing that I had doubts about when I was first starting out and even years into being a filmmaker, because I graduated from college in 1996. My first #1 movie wasn't until till 2007. So that was 11 long years of me hustling and striving and working odd jobs and doing all kinds of things I talk about in the book. You don't see that, right? You just see 10 #1 movies from Will Packer. But the reality is that was a long time coming. The only thing I would tell myself is to keep going, because there were moments I, like somebody watching this, doubted myself. Am I doing the right thing? Is it worth it? Am I on the right track? Am I crazy for this dream that I'm chasing? I would say to young Will Packer, you're not crazy. Just keep going. But that's all I would say.
So you talk about your passion, your dream, your purpose.
Yeah.
Is that something that you recognized after you were in it, or did you kind of figure that out along the way, what your purpose was?
Yeah, along the way. I wasn't somebody that woke up and said, I want to be a movie maker, a filmmaker, tell stories, shape narratives. That wasn't it. It didn't work like that for me. And it doesn't work like that for a lot of people. I found my passion and my purpose along the way. I was doing something that I was good at. And I tell people, one of the things I talk about in the book is that you can't say, I'm going to wait till I find my passion in order to start living your life, in order to start giving 110% towards whatever it is you're working on. I remember I was majoring in electrical engineering and I didn't want to be an engineer. It didn't speak to me. But my parents always told me, if your name is on it, you give it 110%, right? Your name is all you got at the end of the day. So make sure if you're putting your name on it, you're going hard. And the reality is that for many people, they don't know what their passion or purpose in life is, and they feel stagnant. And they feel like, I don't know which direction to go, and I don't want to expend energy into some field, area, or medium that I'm not passionate about. But the reality is that my advice is, what is it that you're good at? What's your skill set, right? Do that, and do that well. Do that better than anybody else. And then see if you can't find passion within it. That's exactly what happened to me. I was good at raising money for my little small film projects. I learned how to hire actors. I learned how to self-distribute and market my own projects. I was a hustler. I went out and drove city to city to city, trying to get people to go see my little movies. And the reality is that I was good at those things. And along the way, I found a passion for storytelling, and I found a passion for shaping narratives. So I fell in love with the art of movie making along the way. But initially, I was just trying to keep the lights on. I was just trying to do something to use my God-given talent. And I found my passion while working hard in that area.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah.
How have you been able to continue confronting fear as you're excelling? Tell us about
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, fear doesn't go away. Okay. Make no mistake. I don't care if you're just starting out, if you coming off a failure, if you're coming off a success, if you've been in a particular area for a long time, I don't care. Fear doesn't go away. We all have that, right? It's healthy. You show me somebody that has no fear at all, I'm gonna show you somebody that's not gonna be alive much longer because they walking into traffic and stuff, right? You don't want to be that person. Fear can absolutely help you and help us, help all of us to make the right decisions and to be careful about the worlds that we're in. And I'm just, being facetious. I talk about walking in front of traffic, but metaphorically, some people actually do that, put themselves in harm's way unnecessarily, metaphorically, right? For me, I try to make sure that I'm combating that fear, that anxiety, that insecurity that we all have with positive reinforcement on a daily basis. If you're not careful, that negative drumbeat that we all have in our heads will get loud, right? I use the example of the devil's on your shoulder, the devil and the angel, right? In your ear, in your head, in your subconscious is a voice telling you you don't have what it takes. You're not enough. You should be scared. You should pull back. Don't take the leap. You're not ready. You don't have what it takes. You have to combat that with your voice, not somebody else's, but your voice telling you, I do have what it takes. I believe that confidence is a muscle. And I wake up, Will Packer, every day telling myself, I'm ready for today. I'm prepared. I have what it takes. I have the skill set. Because two reasons. Number one, my voice is the most important voice to say that. Not anybody else's. I don't care who they are or what title they have. Number two, that's the last time I'm going to hear that day. We don't just walk out into the world with a bunch of people telling us how great we are. That's just not how life works, right? Unless you're just talking about people in your comments on Instagram, they lying anyway. Don't listen to them, all right? You need to make sure that you are telling yourself that you are combating that negative cycle, that drumbeat of negativity in your head with a positive cycle of affirmations. It's really, really important. Don't take it lightly. Don't take it as something like, yeah, I could do it, I could not. No, actually physically hear yourself telling you those things because the negativity is going to be there. You got to overcome that with positivity. That is part of working that confidence muscle. It's like any other muscle.
And is that how you're able to keep the main thing with that same type of regimen?
Yeah, that is definitely part of it. And that's a big thing that I talk about in the book, is keeping the main thing. We live in a world where we have so many distractions. So much is pulling at our energy, right? We have a finite amount of energy and we're spending it on all these different things. And even though we have a finite amount of energy, the world in which we live has an infinite number of energy draining things, distractions, people, the internet, television, politics. I don't care what it is. Everything's trying to drain your energy. You have to protect your energy and be very careful about what you spend your energy on. Spend it on the main thing. Keep the main thing. Don't allow things that are external to you that are not as important to drain your energy. It happens to all of us. But when you keep focused on the main thing, right? Don't get caught up in stuff that's superficial and doesn't really matter. It may be loud, it may be interesting, doesn't matter. Keep focused on the main thing. You keep that main thing, the main thing. People ask me all the time about, being a movie producer, and I always have a bunch of projects going. What I say is that I am spending my energy from a career standpoint on the project that needs me the most, the fire that's burning the brightest, as I like to say. And that project is the one where I'm focused. And while I'm focused on that project, there are a lot of other things that are calling for my attention and saying, what about this? Will this? We need this. We need that. I can't do it all. I have to make sure I'm focused on the thing that needs me the most. And once I have that under control, once I've got that to a good place, then I can pivot and go to something else. But too many of us are trying to do it all. We're trying to do everything. And that is not just career, it's spouses, it's parents, it's children, loved ones. Everybody's pulling at you. Sometimes the main thing that you need to be focused on is yourself.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Absolutely. We don't do it enough.
No, we don't. Now, there was another jewel that you have in the book. Do what others won't do. I think that really resonated with me. If you can recall that line, if you can tell us a little bit more about what prompted you to explain that in the book.
Yeah, it's my mantra. If you want to have what others don't, you have to do what others won't. If you're doing what everybody else is doing, if everybody's doing the same thing, you can get the same result. You can have what everybody else does. But if you want to have something special, right? You want to not just have success, but have an outsized success. And I definitely, the other subtitle of the book is Dreaming Big. And I am somebody that believes you got to dream big, right? Don't dream good. Don't dream average. No, you got to dream big. And the reason you got to dream big is because life is so hard. It's tough. You're going to run into challenges that if the dream is not big enough to justify what you have to do to get past the challenge, then you're going to give up. Inevitably, you're going to turn around and be like, this mountain is too high to climb. But if what you're going after, the mountain that you're climbing, is worth it, if what is on the other side of that mountain is something that is really, really driving you, it gives you more motivation to work harder. And while working hard, you got to make sure you're doing it in a way that somebody else isn't. For me, our first movie after we graduated from college, from Florida A&M University, shout out to the Rattlers, was Twa. And we drove to every city where we had a movie theater. We convinced 19 different movie theaters in 19 different cities to allow us to show our movie for one weekend in one theater in their multiplex. And in order to make sure that we were successful, we literally got a Ford Excursion. We had a bunch of movie flyers, and we had a little bit of money for gas and food. And I mean a little bit. And we would drive from city to city to city. We went from Atlanta, Georgia, to Birmingham, Alabama, to Jackson, Mississippi, up to Tennessee. We went to Memphis, Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, over to North Carolina, Raleigh, Durham, Charlotte, Greensboro. I know every market because I drove to every market. I stayed in a Super 8 or Motel 6 or whatever the cheap hotel was that we could stay in and we could afford. And we would go and we would try to convince the local radio station to give us 5 minutes to talk in between the songs or in between the commercials. That's what it took. We did what other people weren't doing. If you want to have what others don't, you got to be willing to do what others won't. Ask yourself, what is it that I'm doing? What's my plan for success? Is it something that everybody else is doing? You're going to get the same result as everybody else. You got to be willing to do something different. Oftentimes it's something harder, but I promise you it will be worth it.
I think that is synonymous with in the book when you said no makes you fine-tune your approach. Mm-hmm. That was a huge jewel because many times people take the answer no as that's it. But you didn't let that stop you with Beyonce.
I did not. That's right. It is what I call a fortuitous no. And that is where you take rejection. You take a door slammed in your face. For me, it was Beyonce. It was painful to get no from the Queen Bee, right? But she told me flat out, I'm not going to be in your movie. I was trying to get her to act in a movie of mine, and she was telling me no. And oftentimes when we get told no, we either think, okay, that's it. I'm going to crawl into a ball and die, or I'm going to just ignore them because they hating on me, right? Actually, the truth is probably somewhere in between. There's probably some value you can get if you remove the ego. It's very important. Take the ego out of it and then think, okay, why did they say no? What was the reason? And is there something that you can adjust? You may never get a yes from that person, but if you can make your pitch, your project, whatever it is you're doing better from that no, then it was a fortuitous no. It actually will help you. So for me, Beyonce told me no. She was not going to be in my movie, but she was gracious enough to tell me why. That was key. She was gracious enough to then allow me to reapproach her. I had to reapproach her 5 times, but each time I was adjusting based on her feedback and other feedback. I stayed open. I didn't get in my head. I wasn't ego driven. I said, how can I make this project better? And that 6th time she said yes. It only took 1. And that movie was Obsessed. It was her, Idris Elba, Ali Larter, and the movie opened #1 at the box office. So it was worth it.
Now, Will, you talk in the book about Sharonda and Cody being that target audience. Before you leave, I want to make sure that our listeners know exactly who is this book for? Who is Sharonda or Cody? Who's that for this book?
Yeah. I talked about how I have very, very specific examples of the demographic that I'm going after for all my projects. For this book, I thought very specifically about who I wanted to read this book. There were two people that I thought of, and one was somebody who was younger, who is just coming out of college or heading into college, getting ready to start that next phase of their life. May or may not know exactly what direction they want to take, may or may not know what field they even want to be in. That's okay. That person, I wanted to understand what it takes in order to build not just an incredible career, but a successful life. And I wanted them to take from the journey that I took from starting from nothing and knowing nobody in Hollywood to the point where I have been very, very successful in that field. The other person was somebody who is in their 40s or 50s, who is looking to pivot, somebody that has not had the success that they wanted to have, and they're looking to make a change. And there's power in the pivot. I talk about the power of the pivot. So that person was somebody who is looking to do something different with their lives. And that can be very scary. It can be very fearful. But the reality is that everything that's worth having is scary and takes sacrifice in order to get there. And so I wanted people who are at the stage of their lives or their careers where they're not sure what their next move should be, or they have an idea, but they're not sure if it's worth it. They're very afraid of taking that leap. I wanted them to hear stories from somebody who also had to make that leap, who also had to go out and sacrifice, who also had moments where I thought, is this the right thing to do? Is this crazy? I don't know. Nobody in Hollywood. What am I thinking? Right. And so I made it for those are the two. I mean, I hopefully, you know, a lot of people will read it, and obviously a lot of people are, but those were the two types of folks that I had in mind when I wrote it.
Thank you so much for that. Find out more in Who Better Than You. It's 29 chapters of advice. The book is sold everywhere books are sold. Will, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you and all of the time that you have given us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the platform. Take care.
And we'll see you, Culture Family, next week.
The Culture is produced and owned by Hip Rockstar Media and is distributed by the Culture Media Group. It cannot be reproduced or broadcast without written consent.